No one noticed the man when he walked through the glass doors. That was the first lesson of the day. The lobby of Harrington and Blythe Real Estate Group looked exactly as it always did: polished marble floors, a chandelier shaped like a crystal crown, walls lined with framed magazine covers praising the firm's visionary leadership. Forbes, Fortune, Global Property Weekly. All of them featured the same faces. Older, white, confident, powerful. The man who entered didn't match any of them. He wore a plain gray coat, slightly worn at the cuffs. His shoes were clean but unremarkable. No watch flashed on his wrist. No assistant walked beside him. No one opened the door for him. He paused just inside, letting the cold air from outside slip away, and took a slow breath. This building had been his idea. Every inch of it. Yet today, he stood inside it like a stranger. Elias Carter had learned something early in life. If people don't think you matter, they will show you exactly who they are. At 48 years old, Elias Carter was the majority owner and CEO of one of the fastest-growing real estate investment firms in the country. His signature authorized billion-dollar acquisitions. His name sat quietly on legal documents that determined the futures of entire cities. But very few people inside this building knew what he looked like. And that was intentional. He had spent the last 12 years building the company from the ground up, starting with one crumbling apartment complex and a loan no bank wanted to approve. Now, Harrington and Blythe controlled luxury developments, affordable housing projects, and commercial land across multiple states. And yet, over the past year, something had begun to feel wrong. Numbers didn't line up. Complaints from tenants were quietly buried. Minority-led projects stalled without explanation. Employees who spoke up vanished from the org chart. The board blamed market pressure. Elias didn't believe them. So today, he came without warning. No announcement. No memo. No title. Just a man walking into his own company to see how power behaved when it thought no one was watching. The receptionist glanced up briefly. Her eyes skimmed over him, not unkindly, but not curious either. "Yes," she said, already half turned back to her screen. "I'm here to observe," Elias replied calmly. She frowned. "Observe, what, exactly?" "The office," he said. "Operations. Culture." That earned him a longer look. "Are you with a consulting firm?" "No." "Media?" "No." She sighed, irritation flickering across her face. "Sir, this is a private corporate office." "I understand." There was something about his voice, steady, controlled, that made her hesitate. "I won't interfere," he added. "I'll stay out of the way." She leaned back, crossed her arms. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "Of course not." Her lips tightened. "Then I'm afraid." Before she could finish, a young woman hurried up from behind, holding a stack of files. "Sorry, I'm late." Elevator was slow, the woman said, then noticed Elias. "Oh," she said softly. "Hello." The receptionist gestured vaguely. "This gentleman says he's here to observe." The young woman blinked. Then smiled. "Well, we do have open visitor passes," she said. "If he signs in." The receptionist looked annoyed. "Maya." "It's fine," Maya said gently. "I'll take responsibility." Elias met her eyes. "Thank you," he said. She handed him a badge. "Visitor." Printed in bold red letters. He pinned it to his coat. And just like that, Elias Carter became invisible. The office floor buzzed with energy. Phones rang. Laughter echoed. Coffee machines hissed like tiny engines of productivity. Elias moved slowly, deliberately, watching everything. No one asked who he was. No one asked why he was there. People brushed past him, conversations continuing as if he were part of the furniture. He listened.
They're pushing the Westbrook tenants out by end of month.
Didn't that project get federal housing credits?
Yeah, but legal found a loophole.
Laughter.
They won't fight it. They never do.
Something tightened in Elias's chest. Westbrook was supposed to be protected housing.
He made a note in his mind.
In a glass-walled conference room, 3 executives sat around a table. One of them, a man with silver hair and a voice trained to dominate rooms, spoke loudly. "Diversity optics are great for brochures," he said.
"But let's be honest, our investors don't want risks."
Another man chuckled.
"Exactly. Certain neighborhoods just don't appreciate value." Elias stopped walking.
His reflection stared back at him from the glass.
Calm face. Steady eyes. Old scars behind both.
A third executive leaned back. "We can keep the branding inclusive without actually changing who we build for."
More laughter. Elias stood there longer than he should have. Finally, one of them noticed him.
The silver-haired man frowned.
"Hey, can I help you?" Elias nodded politely. "Just listening." The man scoffed. "Well, don't. This is a private meeting."
"Of course," Elias said, stepping away. As he walked off, he heard someone mutter, "Security should really be tighter."
By noon, he had seen enough to feel both unsurprised and deeply disappointed. He sat alone in the break room, sipping burnt coffee from a paper cup.
No one sat with him. A group nearby laughed loudly, trading weekend plans involving yachts and golf courses Elias had never visited even though he could buy them all. A television mounted on the wall played a business news segment.
"Harrington and Blythe continues to dominate urban redevelopment markets." Elias stared at the screen.
They spoke about the company like it was a force of nature.
Not a collection of choices.
Not a reflection of values.
His phone vibrated in his pocket.
A message from his assistant, unaware of where he was.
"Board meeting moved up to 3 p.m. Urgent."
Elias smiled faintly.
"Perfect."
He stood, straightened his coat, and looked around one last time.
Still invisible. Still dismissed. Still underestimated. But not for long. Because within hours, the people who ignored him, mocked him,
and spoke freely in his presence,
would learn the most expensive lesson of their lives.
When the room turns cold. At 2:57 p.m., the executive floor changed its tone.
You could always tell when a board meeting was about to begin. Voices dropped.
Assistants moved faster.
Laptops snapped shut with rehearsed urgency.
People who had laughed too loudly an hour earlier now walked with purpose, shoulders squared, faces carefully neutral.
Elias Carter stood near the elevator doors, watching them gather. Men in tailored suits.
One woman in a sharp navy blazer.
Confident strides. Familiar arrogance.
They passed him without looking. One brushed his shoulder and didn't apologize.
"Watch it," the man muttered, already moving on. Elias said nothing. The elevator doors opened. They all stepped in.
So did he. There was a pause. The silver-haired executive, the same one from the glass conference room, looked Elias up and down, irritation flashing across his face.
"This is the executive floor," he said flatly. "Yes," Elias replied. "You lost?" "No."
The man exhaled sharply. Security really needs to stop letting just anyone wander upstairs. A few quiet chuckles.
No one defended him. Elias leaned back against the wall as the elevator climbed.
The doors opened to the boardroom level.
Everyone stepped out.
So did he. This time, the irritation turned into something sharper.
"Okay," the silver-haired man said, stopping. "Who are you?" Elias met his gaze calmly. "A visitor."
"That's not acceptable," another board member snapped.
"This is a closed meeting." Elias nodded. I understand. Then leave. Before Elias could respond, Maya appeared down the hall, slightly out of breath.
He's with me, she said quickly.
All eyes turned to her.
With you? The woman in the navy blazer asked.
Since when do assistants bring guests into board meetings? Maya swallowed. He's observing.
At least for the first part. The silver-haired man rubbed his temple.
This is ridiculous. Elias spoke before Maya could say anything else.
I'll sit in the back, he said.
I won't speak.
Something about the way he said it, quiet, steady, made refusing him feel strangely difficult.
Fine, the silver-haired man said. 5 minutes. Then he's gone. Elias inclined his head. Thank you. The boardroom was long and immaculate. Glass walls. Leather chairs.
A table polished so perfectly it reflected faces like a mirror.
Elias took the last seat near the wall.
From here, he could see everyone.
They couldn't see him. The meeting began. Numbers flashed across a massive screen. Quarterly profits. Expansion plans. Strategic exits. Language polished enough to hide almost anything.
We've approved the Westbrook clearance, the silver-haired man said casually.
Elias's jaw tightened. Another board member nodded. Tenants will be out within 30 days. Legal risk? Minimal.
And the community impact? The woman in the navy blazer asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer.
The silver-haired man shrugged. Unfortunate, but necessary. Unfortunate.
A word Elias had heard his entire life used to excuse cruelty.
He watched their faces as they spoke. Relaxed. Detached. Comfortable.
These were people who never lost sleep over consequences they'd never personally face.
Halfway through the meeting, a junior executive cleared his throat. There's one more thing, he said hesitantly. We've had a few internal complaints. The silver-haired man sighed dramatically. Again? Concerns about workplace culture, the junior executive continued. Bias. Discrimination.
A ripple of annoyance moved around the table.
Oh, for God's sake, someone muttered.
The woman in the blazer rolled her eyes.
Is this about optics again?
The silver-haired man leaned forward.
Listen carefully. We are not racist. We are not discriminatory. We are selective. Several heads nodded. Elias felt something old and familiar rise in his chest. The pressure. The restraint. The memory of being told to be patient.
Certain employees just don't fit our brand, the man continued.
And frankly, some people are always looking for reasons to feel offended. Laughter followed.
Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered his mother cleaning offices like this one late at night.
He remembered being followed in stores. Being talked over in rooms exactly like this. He opened his eyes. And waited.
All right, the silver-haired man said, glancing at his watch.
That's enough for now. We'll wrap before the CEO call. Elias straightened slightly. The woman in the blazer frowned. The CEO isn't joining?
No, the man said confidently.
He rarely does. Elias smiled faintly.
Good, the silver-haired man continued.
Less interference. That word landed hard. Interference. As if ethics were an inconvenience.
The silver-haired man finally looked toward the back of the room.
You, he said sharply. Time's up. Meeting's over for visitors. Elias didn't move.
I said, the man snapped.
Elias slowly stood. Every movement deliberate. Calm. Controlled.
I think, Elias said evenly, it would be better if I stayed.
The room stilled.
The silver-haired man scoffed.
You don't get to decide that. Elias took a step forward. For years, he said quietly, I trusted this board to protect what we built. A few faces shifted. I trusted you to understand why this company exists. The woman in the blazer narrowed her eyes. Excuse me? Elias reached up and removed the red visitor badge. He placed it on the table. Face down. I wanted to see, he continued, who you were when you thought no one important was watching. The air felt heavier now. The silver-haired man stood abruptly. This meeting is adjourned. Security. Elias didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. My name, he said, is Elias Carter. Silence. A sharp, brittle silence. I am the majority shareholder, he continued. And the CEO of this company. The color drained from the room. Someone's pen clattered to the table. Maya gasped softly from the doorway. The silver-haired man stared, mouth opening slightly, then closing again. No, he whispered. Elias met his eyes. Yes. The room had never felt smaller. Faces that once radiated confidence now flickered with calculation, fear, disbelief. Elias walked to the head of the table. And sat down. Now, he said calmly, let's talk about what I saw today. Judgment Day. No one spoke. Not because they had nothing to say. But because everything they had believed about power had just collapsed. Elias Carter sat at the head of the table, hands folded, posture relaxed. The same man they had ignored in the lobby. The same man they had spoken freely in front of. The same man they had dismissed as unimportant. Now he owned the silence. The silver-haired board chairman cleared his throat, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Elias, he said carefully, this is unexpected. Elias tilted his head slightly. So was what I heard today. The woman in the navy blazer straightened in her seat. If there's been a misunderstanding. There hasn't, Elias replied calmly. He tapped a button on the table. The screen behind him changed. Emails. Audio transcripts. Internal memos. Private conversations, now very public. Elias's voice was steady. For the last 8 months, I've been auditing this company quietly. Independently. The junior executive's face went pale. I heard how you talk about tenants, Elias continued. About employees. About communities we promised to protect. The silver-haired man laughed nervously. You're taking things out of context. Elias leaned forward slightly. Context, he said, is exactly why I came in person. He looked around the room. Let me tell you what I saw. I saw a company that claims diversity while silencing dissent. I saw leaders who confuse profit with permission. I saw people who treat kindness like weakness. His eyes settled on the silver-haired man. And I saw a chairman who jokes about optics while violating the values he swore to uphold. The man opened his mouth. Elias raised one hand. Don't. The room froze. I've spent my life being told to wait my turn, Elias said. To be patient. To be grateful just to be in the room. His voice didn't shake, but something deeper carried through it. I built this company so no one would ever have to beg for dignity again. He stood. Slowly. Deliberately. And you turned it into something unrecognizable. The woman in the blazer spoke again, more cautiously this time. Elias, think about what you're doing. The board exists for stability. Elias nodded. You're right. He pressed another button. The screen displayed legal documents. Termination notices. Effective immediately. I'm restoring it. The silver-haired man shot to his feet. You can't fire the entire board. Elias met his gaze. I can, he said quietly. And I am. One by one, he spoke their names. Each sentence landed like a verdict. For ethical violations. For breach of trust.
For gross misconduct.
Faces collapsed.
One man slumped back in his chair. The silver-haired chairman's voice cracked.
You're making a mistake. Elias shook his head. No, he said. I'm correcting one.
There was a knock at the door. Security stood waiting, summoned earlier, now unsure who they were there for.
Elias didn't look at them.
These individuals, he said calmly, are no longer affiliated with this company.
The guards nodded. No arguments. No hesitation. The board members filed out one by one. Some angry. Some humiliated. Some silent.
The silver-haired man was last. As he passed Elias, he stopped. You could have warned us, he muttered.
Elias looked up at him. So could you, he replied. The man left. The door closed. The room felt different now. Lighter. Maya stood frozen near the wall, eyes wide. Elias turned to her. You spoke up today, he said. When you didn't have to.
Her voice trembled.
I just didn't think it was right to treat you like that.
Elias smiled, truly smiled, for the first time that day. From this moment on, he said, you report directly to me.
Her hand flew to her mouth.
Thank you, she whispered.
Elias looked around the empty boardroom.
Kindness, he said softly, is never invisible to the right people.
That evening, an internal message went out to every employee. Not corporate. Not polished. Just honest. Today. Leadership changed. Not because of profits, but because of principles.
This company will be measured not by what it owns, but by how it treats people.
Emails poured in. Employees crying at their desks. Tenants calling in disbelief. Communities breathing again. Elias left the building the same way he entered. Quietly. No escort. No applause.
Outside, the city buzzed on, unaware of how much had changed inside one building.
He paused at the glass doors and looked back. Not at the company, but at the future. And for the first time in a long while, he felt peace.